Well, welcome back, Wolfpack. Verlis here with an update from Nintendo about Nintendo Switch 2 pricing. So GameStop got all the attention with their announcement of an April 24th pre-order for Nintendo Switch 2, but you can just kind of go on the website. Retail pre-orders for Nintendo Switch 2 will begin on April 24th, 2025. At launch, the price for Nintendo Switch 2 will remain, as announced, at $449.99, and the Nintendo Switch 2 plus Mario will stay at $500. Pricing for both physical and digital versions of Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza will also remain unchanged at launch. So this is the weird thing about everyone freaking out about tariffs and then it not mattering. There were people saying like, Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be $600 after tariffs and the game pricing and all this is already unacceptable. So people and social media influencers that understand nothing about market economics and global trade got upset and riled up for nothing. However, Nintendo Switch 2 accessories will experience price adjustments from those announced on April 2nd due to changes in market conditions. Other adjustments to the price of any Nintendo product are also possible in the future depending on conditions. We apologize for the retail pre-order delay, and that's all that ever was. Because people were like, oh no, they're also getting delayed, tariffs are ruining everything! But now it's still back on track, everything's the same, and it was just the retail side of things, because people were covering it off of GameStop, but if you're doing the pre-orders from Nintendo, none of that changed. It was always going to be like May 6th or something when the pre-orders went live, and that was unchanged. So market condition stuff happened, and the overall result, barely any change. So what happened is the camera went from $50 to $54.99. We have like a 10% increase. Here we go. We got a Polygon article with the price comparison. So yeah, you're thinking like, oh my god, the Joy-Con 2 are now $95. Well, that's from $90. So actually everything went up by like $5. That's how crazy these tariffs are coming from. Trump's ruining the economy. No, the accessories, the peripherals got $5 more expensive and nothing else changed. And also, since all the outrage, I've seen people point out some really valid points where instead of like $450 for Nintendo Switch 2, that's not worth it, especially compared to a Steam Deck. Except this is also going to come with the Nintendo Switch 2 dock, which has also been like a very expensive part of the Nintendo Switch ecosystem. So the Nintendo Switch 2 dock set being $120. So yeah, that's an extra add-on if you get something like a Steam Deck. And you don't have to worry about this when you just get your Nintendo Switch 2. And then the bundle the value here is just great. And then with all the people being outraged, it's like, no, here's the physical copy for $80. And even then, that's kind of like really weird and hard to keep track of. Nintendo confirms some Switch 2 physical releases will just have a download on the card. That's just some. And also, I think people are stupid and they don't realize how the card actually works or how modern gaming works. Yeah, it's not like a disc, but we didn't have internal storage for games that you could download when it came to like old school cartridges and discs. So you still, like, if you download it onto your Nintendo Switch, that is now on your SD card as though it was a cartridge. That can't be taken away from you, that you still own the game in that capacity. Now, you can't just swap SD cards between Switches freely, but the entire idea is there where it's like, yeah, having a cartridge for the game is no different than just having your entire library on the SD card, and that's just kind of it. And because the Nintendo Switch 2 has a feature where you can just share your game with other people as a rental for them, I can't understand the outrage. So Nintendo is referring to these physical releases as game key cards. Unlike standard game cards, they'll only contain a download key rather than the full game data. But this isn't all the physical like people are making out. Now it's like really confusing to keep up with everything because people are outraged over nothing. Inserting the card into your Nintendo Switch 2 starts the download process, after which you'll need to stick the game key card into your console anytime you want to play. Like, that does sound worse, but I mean, okay, you can buy that if you find that appealing. I'm actually even more confused after thinking about it for a bit because game save data isn't even stored on the cartridges. So we have like all these cartridges that can hold dozens of gigabytes of data, but you don't even have a save file on the cartridge that's going to be on your console, which is either internal storage or an SD card. So it's not like, oh, I just take this out, I pop it into my friends, and I have all my stuff on my friend's stuff. What's even the point of physical media? It's just a super outdated idea behind storage, because even if I wanted to head on over to my friend's play Smash Bros, I had to bring my memory card. So it's like the physical media means nothing. Cool. Now it's like having a disc library built into your console that takes up no space. Like you just put all of your discs at once and that's it. And now you don't have to worry about them getting scratched or lost or anything. And I'm actually starting to think that's Nintendo's rationale, where they're just like, oh, so these people crying about physical copies, they just want something to hold. Because that's all that a physical copy is. It's like sentimental. It's like, oh, I get to hold this thing. That means absolutely nothing. Neat. And there's still going to be physical copies. This is just a different, clearly indicated kind of thing. And also, Switch 2 edition games will be complete on the card without a download. Nintendo confirms. There was also a lot of misinformation about that, where it's like, oh yeah, you buy the extended edition and it's just going to be a code with like the download or something. But no, you actually get the Switch 2 edition physical copy and the entire game is right there. And it just works. So while it is a little confusing, this is also a couple months before the actual release of the console, so we don't have like the full details about everything. And it's really just people being as uncharitable and toxic as possible because they dislike that the games are $80, even though like, oh, we actually have first party titles still $70, going up $10 for the Nintendo Switch too. That's completely fine. And then people are mad at Nintendo. They're like, Nintendo's setting the precedent. No, Nintendo knows the rest of the industry is starting at $80 for the next generation console. Nintendo is the first to the next gen. GTA 6 is going to be $80, $90, or $100 or whatever, regardless of what Nintendo puts down here. If these are $60 games, Sony and Microsoft aren't going to make their games $70 or $60 to compete. They're just going to set their price at whatever it's already going to be. Next gen is $80. It's been 7 years since Nintendo, actually 8 years since Nintendo Switch 2 launched. Yeah, $80 is a completely fair and fine price. Mario Kart World is well above Mario Kart on the Switch because we have a more powerful console to host larger games on. So that's completely fair. And then you have to think about everything else. That we have these Switch editions for the games. Well, that's because it's that much. It's like a $20 DLC. I guess everyone forgot that Breath of the Wild, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, is an $80 game with DLC, and no one complained, and now you're getting a game that large just as the baked-in $80 game on the next generation of console and next generation of games. I also found this really nifty website that really puts everything into perspective. Nintendo Switch is around $400 adjusted for inflation compared to 2017. Yeah, that's crazy. So also the game's keeping up with that. And again, with the whole wage growth thing, well, let's just kind of scroll down and see how much a Super Nintendo was. $450 for the quality of a Super Nintendo, when we are 1,000 times more powerful than that or whatever. The original Nintendo Entertainment System almost being $600. So yeah, this is your Xbox, or not Xbox, this is your PS5 for the time. And even then, the PS5 has gotten pretty pricey. So yeah, PS5 being $600, and digital edition, oh, look at that, $489. Switch 2 is cheaper than that. Cool. And then like the different pricing of the Steam Decks and all that stuff, Xbox Series X and whatever. Yeah. Like when you really go down this, and like the more you scroll down, it's like, oh, the adjusted for inflation wage growth argument doesn't even hold. Everything's fair. Tariffs and market conditions haven't jacked up the price by 30% and made everything crazy. So yeah, everything's good, fair. You can have your physical copies if you want. The game prices are keeping up or even like under even wage growth, and then we're getting everything better, and Nintendo isn't the bad guy at all, and now everything is just kind of like stabilized and normal. Turns out it's not worth being negative or just terminally online. Who would have guessed? Hope you guys enjoy the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.